talk a bit about CV or control voltage applications with Ableton Live. Before we dive into it, I'm just going to give a quick 5-minute or so crash course on control voltage, what it is, what it does, and why we need to tame it so carefully. I have a small demonstration rig that's full of rather fundamental, easy to understand, very cleanly laid out modules. I'll be turning this rig back and forth to show you what I'm doing as I'm doing it without a split screen display or anything. What we like to do is start with the most basic signals and work our way through the more advanced signals, and at the end, what you take away from here, there's nothing you won't be able to integrate with Ableton Live and a modular rig. As I said, this is a pretty cut down version. This is the travel version of a much larger rig that's currently about twice that size. This is quite the rabbit hole to go down. It can really run away from you. But with some very easy concepts here and a really fantastic audio interface like the Universal Audio Apollo. I'm using an Apollo 16X here. It's 16 ins and 16 outs. And with each in and out being able to carry a different control voltage signal, at any given time it's like having another 32 modules at your disposal. Very, very flexible. So signals can be expressed as frequency over time and amplitude. And control voltage is generally very, very low frequency audio signals that have a rather low voltage. They're inaudible most of the time. You can use audio rate signals to control things, but for the most part we're dealing with very, very low frequency inaudible signals, which is why it's so important to have a DC coupled audio interface. We'll talk a little bit about the ranges of current and why the DC coupled audio interface is so important. Control voltage is generally from 0 Hz to 20 kHz full band frequency range, but we're more concerned with the 0 to 1 kilohertz range. Not very exciting from an audio perspective. But what control voltage can do that audio does not. Audio is constantly flexing above and below the zero line. We're getting positive and negative voltages. And that's what's moving that air at you. With a control voltage, it can be consistent, not moving, static. Just a 5 volt constantly, and it's never moving back and forth. Do we have any DJs in the room? Anyone ever mess around with DC offset on an audio signal to get a little more volume out of it? It's just pushing the positives at the expense of the negatives, and we're not getting that even flex. It's very, very dangerous for an audio interface if it's not set up to handle it. You can blow the circuitry of the audio interface, and anything that's on the end of it can be destroyed as well. But most importantly, all it takes is one little 10 millisecond trigger signal at the wrong voltage going through your audio interface to ruin your audio interface, your speakers, and your ears. 10 milliseconds is all it takes. So I can't express enough how important it is to only ever attempt this stuff with a known DC coupled audio interface. Make sure your volumes are down before you get comfortable with what you're doing and ease in. One little mistake and ruin everything. Audio is dynamic. Control voltage can be dynamic, it can be static, it can be positive only, it can be negative only. Sky's the limit. We're dealing with raw voltage, no rules. Most audio interfaces are geared towards consumer level signals and consumer type applications. This is the world of the tinkerer, the explorer, the experimenter. We do things in this environment that no one ever thought anyone would do or should do. That's what makes it part of the fun, right? A few precautions is all it takes to start digging into this stuff. These are basically all of the signal transforms that we could expect to perform on control voltage. And I know it looks like a lot of scientific mumbo jumbo, but really all we're doing is taking a voltage, bumping it up, bumping it down, stretching it out. Just think of a rubber band. That rubber band is a signal on an oscilloscope. We're just pushing and pulling, stretching and moving it around. So if we have a standard signal across a zero line, an LFO is oscillating evenly above and below zero, equal, positive, and negative. We can reduce the amplitude, which in modular land is referred to as attenuation. We can invert the signal, make the positives negatives and the negatives positives. Off is on is off, up is down. It can get pretty interesting when we start mirroring things. Offsetting the signal, positive or negative above the zero line, as your traditional DC offset. Positive and negative offset with reduced amplitude is your attenuation with offset. And rectification, at half rectification, we're taking negative signals and bumping them to zero, only the negatives. If we invert that, you would take all the positives and bring them to zero, and the negatives would be full. And full wave rectification is taking the negative waves and taking whatever it was negative and inverting it positive. That in a nutshell